Hi there, welcome back to our channel where we tell you exactly what you need to bring your design and construction projects into reality, as well as show you how we have successfully brought various clients' projects into a successful completion. In today's video, we are going to show you all it took to build this 4-star hotel raft foundation project in a swampy area from foundation to the finishing stage. Please stay tuned as we delve into day's activity. Soon after the DPC was accomplished, which was a major milestone for the project, the setting out on the ground floor began. This is an activity that marked the marking out of all the spaces in the ground floor. These spaces includes the reception, the waiting area, the convenience that is accessible to anybody within the waiting area and the reception, the lift area, and a lobby that leads to the manager's office, 3 standard rooms on the ground floor, and of course the other side of the house of the hotel has 2 super deluxe rooms, a restaurant, a bar, then the convenience that serves this area, the restaurant and bar, as well as a kitchen with its own convenience, then the savory, as well as 2 stairways that leads to the upper floors. As soon as the setting out was completed and block work continued to the lintel level, the lintel iron work as well as the carpentry work began. This also ushered in the casting of the lintel. Like we have said in our previous video, the lintel binds the building together, helping it transfer all its load from the building through the columns to the foundation. In this instance, we had to bind all the areas of the building, all the walls in the building together to ensure that this function is properly taken care of, considering the nature we found the land when we got there. The casting of the lintel was done section by section, such that as soon as a section is completed, the leveling work in that section will start, enabling us to prepare it for the decking work. This implied a systematic and collaborative approach to this work, such that all the construction team members, right from the iron workers, the carpenters, and the people casting the lintel, all work together to ensure that each place that is completely done is cast such that the leveling work can start within that area while other remaining areas are being worked on. Just as you have said in our earlier videos, the lintel marks the end of most of the windows in each floor. But in this particular project, most of our windows were long rising windows that started from the ground floor and went all the way to the last floor. Therefore, there were no lintels on these. As soon as a reasonable part of the project was ready for the decking skeletal work, which involves carrying all the beams and leveling the floors, began. Just like other works in the building, we also did this section by section, such that the section that was ready, The decking work began there, while the casting and leveling was still ongoing on the other side of the building. Few days into the carpentry work, a reasonable amount of space was available for the iron workers to begin the ironwork for the decking. This continued day after day, starting with the beams, laying the mats, and linking up all the areas that needed the ironwork, tightening them and getting them ready for the casting. As the ironwork was nearing completion, the electrical as well as plumbing work began, which implied putting in all the lighting points as well as piping all the spaces that we have, the conveniences from top to the ground. Most of these activities ran in parallel, implying collaboration among the construction team members to ensure that each person carries out his work without affecting the possibility of the other person to carry out his own work. And by the end of the day, the decking was ready for casting. The casting was carefully carried out to ensure that there is no breakage of electrical pipes or the plumbing and mechanical pipes in the process. By the time this milestone was completed, it had taken the project 6,329 inches blocks, 75 bags of cement to lay the blocks, and 120 bags of cement to cast the lintels. Then 12 roads for the lintel with about 100 lengths, and 24 roads with about 51 lengths that were used to raise this project to this level. For the decking, the 16 roads used were about 100 lengths, then 12 roads were about 559 lengths, 8 roads were about 300 lengths, then about 4 rows of binding wire, about 348 bags of cement were used to cast the decking, then 120 tons of chippings, as well as 15 trips of double azote sand. Then for the lift area, a total of between 25 to 30 bags of cement was used to cast the lift area, and about 45 lengths of 12 rods were used to cast the lift area to get us to the next level. Soon after the casting of the decking, the block work, the setting out of the block work on the first floor level began. This involved, as we know, marking out all the spaces, marking out the doors and the windows of all the spaces. The first day of this work was generally used only for setting out, and the next day, the topping of blocks began on all the sides. Our main strategy for meeting the targets on this project was doing our works in sessions, such that we face a particular session. Once we are done to the level of lintel, as the carpenters are doing the lintel in that session, we are doing the block work in the other session. On the first floor of this building is where we have the boardroom. In addition to this, we also have 2 standard rooms, 2 executive suites, 4 super deluxe rooms, the MD's office, the sitting or open area, as well as a void that overlooks the reception area. Just like in the other level, on this level too, the lintel work was done at the same time as the leveling work, such that each section that is completed, the leveling starts in that area, while casting will still be ongoing on the other areas. As soon as the leveling was accomplished, the decking work began. Our strategy for saving cost here was using the marine board, which is solid enough and can be reused up to 3 or 4 times before it spoils. We saw that before we could finish the next preparation for the next decking, it has gotten to 21 days, so we could lose the decking on the ground floor and use it for the next floor. If we needed to buy, it would just be to buy a few others and add to what we have to continue the decking work. And this actually worked for us. As soon as the woodwork for the decking was completed, the ironwork began, which, as it's completed, ushers in the electrical and mechanical work, after which the casting itself begins, which marks the end of another milestone in the project. By the time this was completed, it was recorded that we used about 6,500 9-inch blocks, 713 12mm rods, 116mm rods, 308mm rods, 51 24mm rods, as well as 4 rolls of binding wire. For the chippings, about 120 tons of chippings were used, and 15 trips of double azo sand were used. The cement that went into the project was about 573 bags of cement. Soon after this decking, work on the second floor began. And there was something about the second and the third floor. Everything about the 2 floors were just identical. For instance, they had 1 presidential suite, 3 deluxe rooms, 4 super deluxe rooms, and 2 executive suites. And this was the same both on the second floor and on the third floor. The works here were repetitive, so we're just going to use 1 floor for our discussion in this video. At this level, all the construction activities were just the same as we described earlier. Marking out all the spaces, marking out the doors, the windows, and religiously following the measurements as it was done in the drawing. This helped us to achieve the building just as it is in drawing. After marking out all the floors and its spaces, the next thing was the roofing. And now the roofing was divided into two sections. One, of course, was going to be a decking, which is more like the rooftop bar, while the other is the normal roof, flat roof. And of course, this implied taking care of the roof such that it will ensure there will be no leakage by the end of the day. To gain access to the roof, of course, we had to ensure that a staircase was first of all cast to bring traffic to the roof. The major work here includes the piping to establish the lighting points. Then the drainage, laying the drainage pipes to establish the points through which all the water that comes to this roof would drain off. And remember, this is what we started from the ground floor immediately after the DPC, putting in all the pipes to ensure that whichever water that enters the roof drains to the ground floor. In addition to this, a roof gutter was constructed to ensure that any water that drains towards that place flows naturally to the drainage and onto the ground floor of the building. Care was also taken to build stoppers such that the water will not flow into the building, and also to slope it towards the drainage pipe to ensure that each water that enters there is taken care of properly. Lest I forget, the second and the third floors each took 7,000 blocks, about 720 12mm rods, and at this point the work of the 24mm rod stopped and we started using 16mm. So we used about 161 16mm rods, 300 8mm rods, 5 rows of binding wire, 120 tons of chippings, and 15 trips of double azo sand, as well as 600 bags of cement to achieve the project at this level. In the roof section of the building, we had spaces that houses the water tanks. This was structurally considered from the foundation such that it could carry up to 3,000 liters tank of water in each of the spaces. We divided it into two, one on the left hand side and one on the right hand side, to help balance the weight on the building. By the time these activities had been accomplished, the building was ready to take the roofing sheets. And we chose the aluminium long span because that is what is preferred for this kind of hidden roof, where the slope is not really very steep for the waters to run. So it is preferable in that it will help the free flow of water as soon as it touches the roof to go to the ground. A section of the open bar at the rooftop was also roofed to enclose things like the refrigerator, the entertainment things, and of course the barman who will be there to serve the people there. By the time the roofing was completed, preparation for other works in the building project continued. This includes the plastering, which normally starts by erecting scaffolds all around the building, upon which the people that are going to do the work will stand. Now, plastering work is a finishing work. Therefore, for this building, we ensure that we did ranging plastering, which ensures that all the corners, all the edges come out sharp and the way they are supposed to be when the building is finished. Considering all this, our emphasis was on getting the job done right from the block work and during the plastering stage. If there is any error that was noticed in block, must have to be corrected at this stage. In all, the material that was used for this plastering was about 400 bags of cement, 30 strips of gum plaster, sand, and 20 strips of sharp all-purpose sand. Thank you for being with us this far, and see you in our next one as we continue to tell you all you need to bring your project to a successful completion. See you.